Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Giannis Shanez and Tony Gold. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 3-1 victory against Brentford, but I'm going to call 4-1, and we'll talk about why I'm doing that later on in the show. We have a lot to get to in this episode. I do want to mention that we are live on YouTube. We are live on Cottage Talk Facebook page and my own personal Facebook page. I'm having problems getting my X account to connect. So if you want to watch live, please do subscribe and like, and that will allow you to get these times to basically get to the show. So please do subscribe to Cottage Talk and on YouTube, and then you will get the alerts when we are live. Okay, guys, let's get to the show. And Giannis, I'll go to you first. How you doing, Giannis?
I'm brilliant, thank you. How's it going, guys?
Good. Good. Feeling good about that victory, Giannis?
Oh, damn straight. Oh, yes. It's always great to put one over those bus stop boys. It really, really is. You know, this is their cup final. I
It
don't know
is.
if you guys saw the interview Brentford FC did with Keith Andrews after the game, and even then
I
you
have
could
not.
see that, yeah, where he talked about how big the game was to the club and to the fans, and I thought, oh, this is just a ruddy marvelous. Send them packing down the A4. Off you go.
Okay, off you go. I love that from Gentleman
Off
Jim
you
from
go.
a couple
Yeah.
matches ago. I
Bye
love that.
bye.
Off you go. Mr. Gold, how you doing? It's great to
Yeah,
talk about another Fulham victory.
absolutely. Great to see you guys. Looking forward to getting on, getting into things. So yeah, can't wait.
Okay, so Tony, I'm going to start with you. Just give me your opening thoughts. I've got a bunch of Cottage Talk talking points to go through, but it's 3 points. It's against Brentford. Good stuff, but there's also stuff to work on as well.
Yeah, look, I think when we spoke about it on Friday, Russ, it was more about how Marco Silva was going to approach the game. We were disappointed with the performance against Leeds, even though we got the result. The performance wasn't particularly great. And, we were hoping that we'd be playing a bit more front foot football, maybe change it up a little bit, maybe bring in a couple of the flair players that we've been lacking a little bit, but obviously stuck to what he's believing in at the moment. And to be perfectly honest, I thought, we did okay. But let's call a spade a spade. Brentford were absolutely woeful. I thought they were terrible, really, really poor. And, they are going to have a long season. They've lost some big key players. Losing Thomas Frank is a big blow for them. Keith Andrews is out of his depth. I think he's going to massively struggle. And you know what? Fulham took advantage. And that's all at the end of the day that, they can only beat what's put out in front of them.
That's right.
And, after a bit of a shaky start, they grew into the game and actually, ended up creating and finishing off some very, very good chances. But, I think we still have to keep things, low key in the fact that Brentford were really poor, in my opinion. I thought they were really poor.
They were, but Tony, I agree with that. I think Fulham had a factor to do with that, but I also think that regardless of how Fulham played, I do agree that Brentford were not good at all, and I think the losses are catching up with them, and I do agree with all that. That this is not going to be an easy season for them. I got that feeling. That's actually a good thing because I'm not a fan of Brentford, so I'm happy for that. Giannis, I want to get your opening thoughts.
It was a weird game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, second own goal in 2 games. Um, we obviously gifted them one. Josh, mistake is a mistake. It's fine.
Yep. We're going to talk about that.
I think of the three big losses that they've had, I think Norgard is the biggest loss of the lot.
I was just about to say that. That's a
Yeah.
great point. Go ahead, Giannis.
Yeah, because Henderson, for all his experiences, I think a downgrade, and they just looked all over that. They weren't connected at all during the game. They struggled, not mightily. They weren't. They're going to struggle, I think, for the rest of the season. It's just some odd defending. And then we took our chances, which was great. We weren't at our best, but we didn't need to be.
Correct.
Yes. No, that's a good point, and I think that's the point Tony's making as well. They were so poor that Fulham did not have to be at their best, and I guess that's a good thing. When you're not playing your best, you still win. That's a good sign, but I think you both will agree that there's work still to be done to make this team the kind of team that we want them to be. But obviously, winning the match is number one. I'm glad that they did. All right, guys, let's transition. Let's go to Cottage Talk talking points. And I got some really good ones for us. The first one, Giannis, I'll go to you first because you already mentioned talking about Josh King. So I want to approach this a little bit differently, okay? I've given this some thought. I think the goal by Brentford was a blessing in disguise. Now, no one wants to see a young kid make a mistake. He makes a mistake. But the reaction from the goal, I think, led to a lot what we saw. And I also think it galvanized the team around Josh King. They all came up to him. So many came up to him. I shouldn't say all, but I saw so many players come up to him, put a hand on his shoulder, basically try to get him to forget about it. And I thought he played well after that. That's where I'm going with this idea that this goal by Brentford put Fulham down, but I think in the end it might have helped them in the long run.
Yeah, for 20 minutes, they did nothing. Brentford did absolutely nothing. It was robbery. It's one of those passes that Josh has done that you learn from your mistakes. I love the fact that Alex Iwobi went over to console him after the goal. Then at halftime, you saw Joachim go over and Alex say,
That's
it's fine.
right.
You make mistakes. I agree with you, Russ. I thought he played well for the rest of the game. He worked very hard. You could see at the time, you could see what it meant to him. He'd made an error, but the kid is only 18. I mean, geez. I mean, we make enough. The outfielders make enough mistakes as it is. Unfortunately, it's cost us a goal. But, again, got to say something about Marco. Marco keeps selecting him.
That's
He's
right.
got faith in this boy. And I thought he had a good game yesterday. And you know what? It's an error that is learned from. And it's ironic that they scored from that because really they didn't create much the whole game.
They absolutely did not, Giannis. And that's what's great about this is the play of Fulham. But I wanted really to start by talking about this situation, this goal, because again, they weren't offering anything. It was against the run of play, Tony. And when it happens, I'm thinking, oh no, I hope this doesn't change Marco from playing and starting Josh King. I think that feeling has gone away because of the reaction by the players and the reaction from Josh King afterwards. That's why I'm saying it's a blessing in disguise. We all make mistakes. He's going to learn from this. He might never make this mistake again, Tony. So that's kind of where I'm going on this. I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, look, as Yanis quite rightfully said, he's 18 years old. He's learning. He's developing. How many professional footballers play blind passes or square passes? Listen, the thing about Josh King is he wants to get on the ball. He's a confident player. He drops into areas. And you know what? He's going to make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes. And you know what? He'll learn from that and he won't do it again. It's that simple. That's how you learn. That's how you develop. That's how you progress. And you know what? I didn't expect anybody's reaction afterwards to be anything different to what it was. You know what? Chin up, get on with it. It happens. He's been brilliant for us. He will continue to be brilliant for us. And it's all part of a journey. Every player on that football pitch yesterday made a mistake at some point. Everyone. It's just unfortunately that particular mistake, was picked up and they punished us for it. It happens. Right. It happens. But it's not the end of the world. And as Yanis rightfully said, he'll learn from it.
Absolutely. And I believe Lukic made a similar kind of mistake, Tony, as well, right? Thankfully, Fulham did not get punished for it. But against a team like this let's give them a little credit. I think that they scouted Fulham very well. They knew exactly what they were doing. They trapped Fulham. They trapped Josh King. They knew exactly what was coming. And they anticipated the situation and they took advantage of it. But it's the reaction afterwards that, to me, I think is such a positive. Like you said, 18 years old, going to make mistakes. I don't think he'll ever make that mistake again. I think that's a good thing to come out of this. So that's why I wanted to start there. Tony, I'll go right back to you. This was a big talking point before the match, the long passes and basically set pieces, because I heard what a set piece guru Keith Andrews is, right? I kept hearing that, how wonderful he is. I think Fulham did, for the most part, a very good job of handling it. I know you and I have our issues with zonal marking, but I think they did a good job not really getting hurt too much by the situations. What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, I mean, if Brentford are reverting to long throws and corners to get through their season, they're going to be in for a very, very long one. I think they had 10 corners yesterday, of which Fulham defended pretty much brilliantly, which is unlike us, because normally that's quite an Achilles heel for us. So clearly they are working on something on the training pitch. And look, I think in the main, the defence, the midfield, and most of, collectively, they stood up to all of those issues and defended them as well as they possibly could, I guess.
Okay, very good. Giannis, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we looked in control. To be honest, Russ, it was just. I mean, their long ball, long throw, Rory Delap like approach is all well and good, but teams are going to find them out, and they're going to, if they defend it in numbers, teams are going to go, so right, try and come at us, and really, Sharda's a decent striker, Utara's a decent striker, but they don't really hurt you. They don't hurt you like Mbemo and Visa can with pace, and they've really got nobody in the middle that can control. Going back to the Damsgaard, I'll give him credit. That was actually a cracking finish.
It was.
I mean, yeah, it was very, very cool. But I mean, they're not going to hurt you. They just looked. It was a weird. They were weird. I expected a lot more of them. I really did. And you know how we get ourselves G'd up for the Chelsea game,
right?
First 20 minutes, they looked flat as pancakes, and they didn't really ever leave first gear if they had a first gear. And if their philosophy was to revert to the long ball, set pieces, it's old, and I still think it's old and stale. And they really didn't test us, did they, Russ?
No,
honestly, no, they really didn't.
No, they didn't, Giannis. And I'm sorry to interject, but this goes back to the losses that they have. They bring in this manager. Listen, I think it's pretty obvious they miss Frank. Okay,
yes.
That's number one with the tactics, and then number two. You just mentioned the loss of Mbeumo, Wissa. I mean, these are significant losses.
Yeah.
Norgard, I think, as you mentioned, the worst one. Imagine if Fulham lost those three players. Where do you think they would be headed right now? I think those losses are massive, Giannis. And I don't think, this philosophy of just selling and basically buying from that, I think it can work, but it can come back to bite you. And I think in the case of Brentford, I think it really has.
Yeah, I think Brighton and Hove Albion are the masters of that. I mean, you've seen their record. It's just outrageous. The players they get and the players that they sell, and they always replenish. There's a cracking club, Brighton. I got so much time for them. I think Brentford might be trying to find the same model. You know what? I mean, they were similar size clubs for sure, but I just think that you've got to give yourself a chance in terms of the players you bring in. And I just look, they look a little toothless up front. They really don't have and the greatest respect to Jordan Henderson, they really don't. You can't be relying on Damsgaard to start being the orchestrator in the centre of the park. And at the back, I'm not completely sold in the back. For Kelleher's a good keeper, but they are missing something.
They are.
And they're going to have to change their tactics a little bit because teams are going to suss them out and quickly. And the three teams that got promoted last year or this year are holding their own.
So far,
so they're going to have to watch. They're going to have to watch because, I think the Bees will stay up, but I think they've got some struggles in store, and I think they just need to vary their play.
Okay, very good. And that's going to lead me to go back to you, Tony, before we move on from this talking point from our friend Benjamin Lawrence. Keith Andrews was a championship player at best, so the tactics are second rate as well. I tend to agree with that.
Listen, when I read that, when I heard that Brentford were appointing him as manager, I was like, absolutely brilliant. Bring it on. Absolutely fantastic, because he's only going to take them one way. That's the reality. It was a very strange decision as far as I'm concerned. When you've had someone like Thomas Frank with his philosophy and the way that he approaches the game, and then obviously knowing that you're going to be losing three key players, surely your mentality's got to be, we need to bring in an experienced manager that understands this level, that's going to be able to get the best out of players, and then we can restructure and regroup. And who do they plump for? That legend Keith Andrews.
Oh man, it's still a puzzling decision, but like you said, Tony, I really don't care because it actually benefits us. So
100%, 100%.
Okay, Tony, right
odd
back
decision.
to you. Very odd decision. this is going to be an interesting part of the show. I want to talk about the starting 11 now by posing it this way. Tony, to you, is it fair to criticize the starting 11 regardless of the result? Now, you and I were critical when we did our 3 keys to victory, and I'm just going to let everyone know that I am now going to let anyone that cares about swearing know that I'm going to be swearing right now, okay? Because I'm going to share with you, Giannis, what I actually told Tony when I saw the starting 11, okay? So if you don't like this talk, I apologize in advance. But when I saw the starting 11, Tony, I said to you, fuck him. Talking about Marco, I was very angry because he didn't start Kevin, but also starting Lukic and Berger together. And I think it's fair to criticize the manager. Again, we're supporters. We should be allowed to do that. And look at this. The victory is important. But I think what you and I were talking about when we did our preview show was against a team like this, we should be looking to be more expansive at home. And I thought he was being safe, Silva. What did you make of this? Is it fair to criticize it? I think it is.
Look, I think I can understand why people will criticize it, and obviously I was quite surprised when I saw the team come out yesterday that he decided to stick with what he played against. Because the truth of the matter is that as a manager, after watching that performance against Leeds last week,
yep,
I would not have been happy with that, and I would be thinking to myself, you know what, I need to change something here, because we look flat, we look disjointed. We've got no attacking threat. I feel so sorry for Munez at times playing in this team, and I was thinking, yeah, he's going to have to change something. He's going to definitely bring in a little bit of something different just to mix it up, and then obviously when you're sitting there and you see it and you think to yourself, wow, okay, so what that statement is saying, Russ, is that he's actually backing the 11 players to go out there and actually put it right. Now, obviously, they got the result in the end, but let's not make any bones about it. They got it because of the craziest own goal you're ever going to see. And so he says, he probably said to them, look, you've got another opportunity. I want you to do it this way, and this is how I want you to approach it. So, you know what, we can sit here and criticize, but at the end of the day, he's got 6 points in 2 games. So, it is what it is at the moment.
Right. And again, here is the other side, and I understand this. It is fair to criticize for sure. Marco sees the players every day, but we are not. This is true, Giannis. So I understand that side of it as well. But yeah. I'm not going to apologize for being upset after seeing that starting 11, and I reacted. And I'm going to share it here. Listen, I think Marco Silva is an exceptional manager. I'm glad he's our manager. Nothing of that changes, and I will praise him. But I think it's also fair to criticize him and be upset when I see something that I'm thinking, it's time to change. But he actually just was being consistent to what he normally does. He sticks by his guys, and he played the same starting 11. So I want to get your thoughts on that. And also, is it fair to criticize him with the starting 11?
Roy Hodgson used to do the same. And I think
that's actually a good point. He did.
So I think what he's done here, Russ, is he's looked at the result against Leeds. He's looked at the performance, and he said, "What? I don't think I can change a winning lineup." And I think part of it might be the Caraboo Cup in the week as well. Believe it or not, I think he probably said, "Okay, if I go with this starting 11, I can bring Kevin, I can bring Chukwueze, I can bring Kenny, I can bring Cuenca, and maybe give Robinson some minutes. I give Castagna some time." And he's gone, well, I can give all these, Harrison Reed, let's not forget, I can give all these bench players, Smith Rowe, a chance against Cambridge United. Let me go with what I've got. Let me express my concerns of the way we play, but I'm going to show faith in that 11 that got the 3 points. I think that's what it was. I was a little surprised. I really did think that he'd make a couple of changes. But when I saw it, I thought, okay, he's going to keep faith. Fair enough. Let's see what he does now. Let's see if he's made any tweaks. And you could say, from a neutral standpoint, it's difficult to change a winning lineup in what is a results-oriented business. That's the thing I think he's looking at. It's sort of funny because part of me was thinking, I hope Robinson's back, but he intimated with Jack yesterday on Friday that he's still a little bit short, which is a shame because I thought Cesc played well as always,
Yeah.
but we really miss Robinson.
We do.
Really
It's a fair
miss him.
point.
Huge. But I was okay with the line. I was okay.
Okay.
And I'm excited for the Cambridge game.
So am
because
I.
there's gonna be a lot of all these players going to come in, and it should be fun to see how we do.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. But Giannis, but to go back to you, I guess
Russ, can I just add on to what Yanis just said there? Sorry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because
Go ahead.
I know what you're saying, Yanis, about Robinson, but I actually think defensively we look better. And
I agree.
You know, and that's I know what we miss from Robinson, what he gives us going forward in terms of, those overlapping runs, but actually defensively, I think we look more solid.
And that's the tough bit. And that's a tough bet because Robinson coming forward you don't get to appreciate what you've got until it's gone. Brentford are finding out now.
Yeah.
And Robinson, he's one of those players that when he's on the ball, I get excited. I do. There's that heightened awareness. It's a bit like Kevin coming on. It's like,
right.
What's Robbo going to do now? He's just such a good player. I agree. I mean, Cesc has done a very good job, and it solidifies that back four. But Robbo's got the unknown. I mean, I think of that goal, the cross he delivered for the Harry Wilson winner last year against this lot.
Yep.
And it's like, that's what he can do.
Yeah.
And it's, but hey, doesn't it say something about the depth of our squad?
It does.
It does. And absolutely. I'd forsake some of those opportunities that he creates for us to make sure that we stop shipping goals like we were. And I actually think it's made a big difference. Because I think at this point last season we must have conceded about 8 or 9 goals. I think and it was every week we were shipping goals, and that was half the problem last year. But so far defensively, this season, we just look so much more comfortable and actually look quite solid for a change. We're not getting opened up. We're not getting players pulled out into areas. Anderson looks like a completely new player at the moment, and it just seems to be working. So I get what you're saying about Robinson, absolutely, but I would be sort of worried to change it now, just because at the moment I think Cesc is actually doing all right there.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
These are good problems for Marco to have, though. This is
definitely,
great.
definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
And with the game with Villa next week, and Villa, of course, they can't score. I mean, I'm still perplexed at their start of the season.
Yeah.
We've got an actual legitimate chance of doing something that we rarely do up at Villa Park, is getting a point, let alone 3.
It is funny, Giannis, because while we're doing the show, I'm actually have the match on right now that they're playing against Sunderland.
Still 0-0, right?
Still 0-0, in case you're wondering. Giannis, I left this comment up because it's from our friend Chris Goodwin, who's a Liverpool supporter. It says, is Robinson better being played as a winger or defender? Well, the issue, if you were to change it to a winger, I've never seen him score, so I don't see that as a really good way to do it. But like you said, Giannis, I think this is actually a good problem to have, that we're discussing it like this.
Good God, you've got potentially a Wobie, Smith Rowe, Kevin. Holy moly. We've got some great options. We really do. We've got some strength and depth at last. We're relatively healthy apart from Robbo.
Yep.
I mean, I'd find a way to get Robbo in the starting 11, but right now, as Tony said, he's going to have to fight to get it, get a starting position again. Right. It's not going to be easy by any means.
Okay, very good. All right, guys, let's move on to my final talking point before we break down the match, and it's this. I'm going to contend that the score should have been 4-1, Tony, and we talked about this before we went live. I really want to get into talking about the situation with Rodrigo Muniz. The minute he scored, Tony, I said, I watched this match with the Fulham supporters group of Boston. Okay, fantastic time. I'll mention a little bit about my time in the second half of the show. But I knew that this was going to VAR. I had a sneaking suspicion that this goal wasn't going to count. Give me your thoughts about this. This should have counted. We're going to have this discussion about VAR going on and on and on. What do you make of this?
Russ, football is a contact sport. I'm sorry. It was an absolutely ludicrous decision. It wasn't a foul. It was completely accidental. But Muniz is a physical player. I know we spoke about it before off air, but when you're jumping for balls and you're competing for things, what are players meant to do? Keep their arms by their sides and just use their legs. It's a nonsense, absolute nonsense. And the only reason why VAR have got involved is because Collins has got up with blood pouring out of his mouth. Okay, he's taken one in the mouth. It's an accident. It happens. It's football. That is football. There was no intent there at all, none whatsoever. And it's just getting ridiculous now with VAR jumping into these situations, and it's just madness, absolute madness. And somebody needs to look at it, and someone needs to start getting on top of it. Let referees referee.
Right.
He's refereed the situation. He didn't blow his whistle for a free kick. He's allowed play to continue. End of. VAR doesn't need to get involved.
Right. And that's where I'm going on this, Tony. And Giannis, we were talking about this before. What is frustrating to me is that Michael Oliver's right there. He doesn't make any change at the time. Then next thing you know, it's going to VAR, and he then goes to the monitor, and then it becomes a disallowed goal. What is Rodrigo Muniz supposed to do, Giannis?
Well, have no arms. That's about the sum of it. I mean, it just because remember, it was Oliver talked about flailing arm, but it wasn't a flailing arm. He'd pulled his arm back, but he'd mistimed his jump. Nathan Collins came into the arm. It wasn't the other way around. It was a ludicrous call. It's a bogus call, and luckily it was 3-1 at the time. But can you imagine if it was an equalising goal? It doesn't make any sense. That's the second time we've been jobbed this season because of VAR, and the second time the Muniz has been involved in it. And it doesn't, no consistency.
Absolutely not. And Tony, back over to you. It wouldn't surprise me if Marco gets another call from Howard Webb. It would not shock me at all.
Yeah, but do you know what, Russ? I can understand his frustration. I really can, because the manager's got a hard enough job as it is, trying to get results, trying to, create opportunities for their team. They spend a lot of time in the week working on things. And then, for Muniz to have that moment chalked off, and for Josh King to have his moment chalked off because of just really, really poor understanding of the game from people that are sitting, in boxes, making decisions, looking at television screens. It's utter madness, and it is killing the game. It is killing it. And unless they get on top of it and sort it out, and somebody just does something to let referees referee on the pitch, then we're going to continue, unfortunately, to get moments like this, and it's just not right. It's not right.
And I'm glad that I'm sharing this comment, because Jordan Henderson is a factor in all this. Because Jordan Henderson goes right to Michael Oliver. Next thing you know, it kind of blows up. So I understand the player going to him, but what is Michael Oliver doing at this point? What do his eyes say to him? And then he again changes it because VAR intervened. But Jordan Henderson played a role in this.
Yeah, listen, Jordan Henderson is an experienced player. And of course, he's going to be, there or thereabouts. And he's always on the pitch talking and getting involved. So, who knows what he said to the referee. But ultimately, in his ear, they've told him to go over and look at the screen. And as you know, when you slow these things down, and you start looking at them and really sort of highlighting areas, it looks much worse than actually it really is. Because in full motion, when you're playing a game of football, it is impossible not to have contact in those situations. It's impossible. Right. And so, what we're doing, are we going to say now moving forward that actually you're not allowed to touch players anymore? You've got to let them control the ball before you can engage. I mean, that's the road we're heading down.
Definitely. I want to share this comment from Vic Z. Regardless of whether it was accidental, it was still deemed a foul, a mouth filled with blood, whether intentional or not, justify VAR's decision. I understand the blood part of it, Giannis, but again, I keep going back. Why didn't Michael Oliver, when he saw all of this, basically rule it out then?
No, nor did the assistant ref either.
Right.
It's not like he flagged it.
Yeah,
and he was closer to the action. It's ridiculous. He's coming. Collins has come into the arm. He's jumped up too early, and his arm has stayed out straight. What's he supposed to do?
Exactly. It's just madness. It is madness, honestly.
Well,
I mean,
think
Rodrigo
that's
Muniz,
cool.
this is 2 on Rodrigo Muniz. I mean, that's what's
Right.
crazy about this. But again, interesting comments, and I'm glad that we're getting both sides, people sharing their views. That's what we want on Cottage Talk. So thank you very much. Whichever way you stand on a position, please feel free to share your comments. We want them, and I will share them on Cottage Talk, and we'll debate them. That's why we
Sure.
do this show. All right. Guys, coming up next, we're going to break down the match, and we'll end with man of the match. Okay, guys, let's get to talking about the match. Giannis, I'll go to you first. Before we talk about the goal from Brentford, I just want to get your thoughts on the opening stages of the match.
I thought we dominated. They didn't look. Brentford weren't in it. We dominated possession. We looked dangerous coming forward. They really didn't do anything of anything. So the goal came very much against the run of play for me. It was bizarre. It was odd. And they almost looked as surprised as we were when Damsgaard scored that. And but to be fair to us, we reacted well. We reacted well, and then of course we got the 2 goals in 3 minutes. We showed our quality there, but they didn't look. Again, they just looked at Brentford looked disjointed. We weren't at our best. We're going to have to admit that. But they just looked all over the shop. They really did. The shape wasn't great. They didn't look great on the break. They've got a very good keeper in Kelleher, but he's still getting adjusted to that back 4. And it just looked odd. It just looked a little dysfunctional. That's what I think. And that was their first half, frankly.
Yeah. Of course. Then you have the goal. We've already discussed this, so I'm not going to go back and talk about the Brentford goal. But Tony, I'm now going to go and talk about Iwobi's equalizer. And Fulham were really starting to create some pressure on Brentford, and now you have the goal from Iwobi. Talk about the equalizer from Alex Iwobi.
Yeah, well, he was central to, I think, everything that Fulham did was good yesterday. I think his link up with Sessegnon was great. His understanding down that side was excellent. And look, in those situations, it's when there's a scrap and it's a bit iffy and the balls are dropping everywhere. Brentford didn't clear their lines. They made a massive meal of it, and Iwobi was in the right place at the right time. And, at the end of the day, he's still got to put the ball in the back of the net, and he's taken it well and he's finished it. And that's the least we deserved at that point, because we certainly didn't deserve to be a goal down by any stretch. Like Yanis said, I thought we were aggressive for most of the match. We were at it. We worked hard. Our midfield got on top of Brentford. And I think that's really where Brentford struggled yesterday, was the fact that Henderson, Damsgaard and Yarmolak really didn't get to grips with the game for them in there. And actually Lukic, Berger, they got on top very early and made it very difficult for them. So that allowed us to go on the front foot. And actually we used the ball a lot better than we did last week against Leeds.
Absolutely.
We got it into, our decision-making was better. Our passing was better. It was sharper. And then, we got that opportunity and we punished Brentford for it.
Absolutely. And Giannis, back over to you. I just want to talk briefly about this situation, but when Tony's talking about this and talking about really our domination in the midfield, does some of this have to do with the loss of Norgard?
Oh, big time. I still think he was their biggest loss. I just thought he brought a lot of stability in the centre of the park. When I saw he'd gone to Arsenal, I thought, oh dear, that's not going to be. He's a difficult player to replace. I thought our first goal, let's be honest, was comical. It really was. They were jumping in. There could have been a penalty, because there was a handball in there. They just couldn't clear their lines. It was Tom and Jerry stuff. And to give Alex enormous credit, he was there, Johnny on the spot, and he knocked it home. But I'm sure Keith Andrews, when he's looking at the video of the goal that we scored, will be having kittens, because it was shoddy, and that's putting it mildly.
Okay. That's normally a goal we concede, Russ, to be honest.
Yes, yeah.
This is true, but Tony, so far so good with these situations, except for set pieces, right? But so far we're not really conceding goals like that.
No, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's been a massive upturn in us defensively, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But like Yanis said, Keith Andrews will be having nightmares watching that back. Brentford had so many chances to get that ball out, and they made an absolute hash of it.
Yeah, but something tells me he'll be working on his set pieces because that's what this guy does, and I don't care. He's more concerned about the perfecting the long pass, which is again just crazy stuff that we watched that in all the corners, and they still did nothing. And that to me is has a lot to do with Fulham's improvement, Tony, because we've talked about Fulham struggling on set pieces, defending them, and also on our own set pieces, and we've been much better.
Much better. Yeah, 100%. And, I don't know what's happened to Anderson. It looks like he's had a rocket sent up him because he looks a completely different player. He looks a yard sharper this time now than he did last year, or even at any point last year. He just looks leaner. He looks sharper. But like I said, I think with Sessegnon playing in there, I think he's much more cautious, and I think he thinks about his defensive side of the game rather than thinking about breaking forward and getting higher up the pitch. Which at times when we lost possession on the counter, it caused us problems. And Robinson was dragged out of position so many times. And I just think that with that, you're then compensating because Bassi gets pulled across, Anderson gets pulled across, Tete has to come across. And I just think at the moment, we're not having that issue. And that's why we're not conceding at the moment, bad goals.
I hear you. Very good stuff from the two of you. All right. Giannis, I'll give you the pleasure of talking about the match winner from Harry Wilson. I know it's 3-1, and I'm going to say 4-1, but it goes back to here. But again, this is about the movement of Fulham that I think was an improvement. We didn't see much of this, I think, against Leeds United. We saw it a lot against Brentford, and Harry Wilson just loves scoring against Brentford. Your thoughts about the goal that gave Fulham the lead?
Mint pass by Alex. Absolute sheer mint. It really was, wasn't it? He put it on a tee. He couldn't really. It was a lovely finish, but he really couldn't miss it. It came rolling across the ground. He made the run and bang, it's in the back of the net. I think it was the microcosm of Alex's performance yesterday. He had a super game. And watching Harry wave that wand of his left foot is always a lot of fun. And within 3 minutes, we were 2-1 up, and Brentford are looking at each other, going, "What's just happened here?" And lamenting with their brown kits, the UPS kit. Just yes. And to be honest, if we hadn't scored those 2 goals, they had a lead that was scarcely deserved. They hadn't done anything of note in that first half. So, 2-1 was the right scoreline at halftime.
Right. You mean they're poop-colored kits, and they play like poop, so I guess it kind of makes sense, Giannis.
Poop at the bus stop.
Tony, I want to get your thoughts on this because there's a video going around that I saw on X that you will see Harry Wilson pointing to where he wanted the ball, and Iwobi gets it right there. So good from two teammates, right?
It starts from the tenacity from Rodrigo Muniz, by the way. His tenacity to win the balls off Collins, then that drive into that area to find Iwobi. Iwobi's precision with the pass was, as Janice said, outstanding. But you know what? The efficiency of Harry Wilson in that moment, because actually I don't think it was as easy as people think, because it's one of those that you have to get absolutely fundamentally right, because if he, overhits it, the keeper saves it. If he underhits it, it doesn't quite. But the way he just masterfully struck it across, it was just a beautiful finish, absolutely beautiful finish. And you know what? It was a crucial goal actually in the game, because that really sort of put us back on the front foot and in charge of the game. And I think from that moment, the minute that ball went in, Brentford were climbing a mountain. It really felt like that.
Okay, very good, guys. Let's move on to the second half. But before we talk about the second half, I'll go right back to you, Tony. What was your mindset going into the second half? Did you think Marco needed to make changes to start the second half? What were you thinking was about to happen? We'll talk about what did happen, but what was your thought process at halftime?
I think with any manager going in at 2-1 at halftime, their first thing they're going to say to any player or anything is the next goal is absolutely critical. And for me, that's what would have been in the back of Marco Silva's mind, is that, if Brentford get an equaliser, it's game back on, it changes the momentum, things swing. But if Fulham score, I genuinely did not see a way back in for Brentford. I really didn't. I think they were that poor. They never really looked like they were threatening us, either from the long throw or corners, because you never know how Fulham are going to defend them. But in the main, the next goal, absolutely critical. And that's what Marco Silva would have been saying, is that, keep strong defensively, make sure you keep doing your jobs, don't drop the tempo, keep working, keep getting the ball into good areas, and then make sure when the opportunity comes that we take it.
Okay. Before I go to Giannis and get his thoughts, I want to just share this because I find this comment interesting. It's what we've been talking about with Anderson. Tony, I want to get your thoughts. This is from our friend Ben Lawrence. I think Anderson getting captaincy has changed him, giving him more trust and leadership. He has to stand out more with the quality of the role. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think Benjamin makes a good point. Obviously, look, when you get the captaincy or the armband, you've got a certain level of responsibility. And I think he's embraced it. He's obviously, taken it on board. He's doing something right, clearly. But like I said, I think Anderson in himself as a player has adjusted something. Maybe he wasn't 100% fit last season, Russ. Maybe he was carrying something. That. Yeah. So maybe this season his body's feeling good. He's feeling better. He's got himself fitter. He's got himself sharper. And it shows. It absolutely shows, because at the moment, him and Bassi, that they look a formidable force at the back at the moment, which is, only a good thing for us.
Excellent. Good stuff. Giannis, what were you thinking at halftime?
Keep it as is. I thought, well, maybe we could bring a couple of subs on, but he'll do his invariable 60, 65 minutes, and then he'll make a few subs. You know what Marco's like. But, we grabbed the initiative back. We're back in the lead. It was really up to Brentford to try and force things in. On the basis of the first half, I didn't know where they were going to create chances from anyway. They really weren't going to suddenly switch on like a tap. They were poor in that first half, and I think Marco would have said, "Look, keep the same, keep the same shape, no mistakes, and if we can get a third goal, it'll be game over." And that's the way it turned out.
It did, Giannis, and I'll give you the honors of talking about the own goal for Fulham. And now Fulham have benefited from 2 own goals. I'll take it every day of the week, but this has a lot to do with Sessegnon. Let's talk about the own goal.
Yeah, I don't know how Nathan Collins missed a header. It was Collins' header, and he's missed it, and it's gone off. You feel a bit sorry for Pinnock, because that's a weird goal. That's 2 weird goals in 2 weeks. I suppose we were due the luck of the luck of the ball there, and Pinnock looked completely perplexed, as the rest of them did, and the Brentford fans went very quiet at that point. They realised they needed to take the bus home sooner than they wanted to. So that was good. It was a bit of luck, but I think you earn your luck at times, and I thought we deserve that.
I agree. And Tony, I'm glad that Giannis said that. Good teams earn their luck, and fine, it's a lucky goal, but I think it is well deserved.
Pinnock couldn't do that again if he tried 100 times, 200 times, 300 times. I mean, the 2 own goals that we've been blessed with. I mean, I can't remember a time when we've seen that situation in 10 years. I mean, 2 of the weirdest own goals you're ever likely to score. But you know what, Russ? Giannis is right. We deserve that luck. Given what happened with the Josh King situation, right, and the Nunes goal, do you know what? These things do come back and level themselves out eventually. And ultimately, you know what? Thanks, Pinnock. Great finish, and we'll take it all day long.
I agree 100%, Tony. All right. Right back to you. Let's talk about why I'm calling this a 4-1 Fulham victory. Okay? Because of the strike. We've already talked about the incident. Let's talk about the strike from Rodrigo Muniz. Now, on the broadcast I watched, they were critical of Kelleher. I'm here to tell you, I don't think there's anything he could have done here. This is a hell of a strike, and also shows what Rodrigo Muniz is capable of.
It was an absolute rocket. I don't think many goalkeepers would have got near it. I genuinely don't. I mean, you can blame Kelleher, but he would have seen that coming, and it was just an unbelievable strike. It was just one of those. It's just a real shame that it didn't count, because he's been absolutely mugged off there big time. Okay,
Giannis, your thoughts on what should have made it 4-1 for Fulham?
Cracking finish, wasn't it? He just absolutely leathered that And Tony's right. Very few keepers would have stopped that. It's a shame he didn't score because strikers feed off confidence, and the confidence drives some goals. He deserved that one. It was a cracking finish, but unfortunately, our friends, the VAR, decided to ruin our party.
They absolutely did, Giannis. All right. So let's finish up by talking about the second half just in general. And Tony, I'll go right back to you. So obviously Fulham makes some substitutions. Kevin comes on. Emil Smith-Rowe comes on. I actually have a comment. I'm glad I remember this. Earlier on, I saw the comments. I'm going to go back to it because I find it interesting. Let's see if I can find it it's actually from Neil Stewart. Here it is. So I want to get your thoughts on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on moving Iwobi to the 10 when Josh King was subbed out and before ESR came in. Why did he do that? Tony, what do you make of it?
I think maybe he was just looking at it and thinking, Josh King had run his race in the game, and he wanted to, try something different. Iwobi was very effective. He was obviously at it. We know that he can play in, several different positions in those forward areas. What I'm struggling to sort of really understand and get my head around is the Emil Smith-Rowe situation at the moment, because for me, he's a very talented footballer. And he's just not getting enough minutes at the moment, in my opinion. And maybe that's a situation that, needs to be looked at, moving forward. He'll probably play Tuesday. Well, he'll definitely play Tuesday night against Cambridge, but to only get 10 minutes again yesterday. And he's the sort of player that needs that sharpness. He needs that game time. I probably would have brought him on a bit earlier, because I think once that third goal went in, Brentford were gone. They were finished. Keith Andrews made some changes, but they didn't really affect anything. And Fulham looked, comfortable defensively. So I thought it was a really good opportunity to get Kevin on earlier, get Smith-Rowe on earlier, even Chuck Wasey. Let's have a look at him, see what he's about. But obviously he didn't get on. Listen, I mean, I say it's not being critical. It's just maybe Marco Silva could make these changes a little bit sooner. And give these guys a bit more playing time, because I think it's important for us moving forward, especially when we go on to the bigger games that are coming up, Villa, Bournemouth, Arsenal, whatever. We're going to need all these players fit and healthy and minutes in the legs. And at the moment, I just don't think players like Smith-Rowe, Traore even, just don't have the minutes at the moment.
Interesting. Giannis, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I want to see a bit more Smith-Rowe. Marco tends to leave subs a little bit late, to be honest. I mean, he'll get 90 plus minutes on Tuesday. I'm assuming, but I think my issue with Smith-Rowe is just he's a confidence player. I think the more minutes he gets, the better he's going to become, and he's done well. He's done well when he's come off the bench, to be fair enough. So I'd like to see a bit more of him. We've got some difficult games coming up, and it'd be nice to see if he can grab some more time and maybe even a starting role. Let's see what he does on Tuesday night. I want to see him have a good game, maybe, because what you want Marco to have to rethink things. You want players to go, wait a minute, coach, I'd like to start as well. You want to force it to make it difficult for Marco. So hopefully he'll have a good game on Tuesday.
Okay, very good. Guys, let's talk about how Fulham finished off the match. Tony, were you feeling that Brentford were ever going to get back in this match? I certainly didn't, even for the last 10, 15 minutes. I thought we had it under control. What were you feeling?
Yeah, no, I think, as I said, once that third goal went in, Brentford were done. I think he brought on Rico Henry. Rico Henry's not really going to change anything for you. Otara came on, I think. Carvalho got a 3-minute cameo, which was great. But so, look, ultimately, the game was done. I would have, as I said, I would have liked to have seen Traore, Chuck Wasey come on. I'd like to have seen them get a bit of time. But look, Kevin came on. He looked okay, and there's going to come a time when he will be thrown in and he will be given a start. And maybe Tuesday night will be that time. But I mean, someone like Smith-Rowe on Tuesday night, he should be playing the game with a cigar in his mouth. I mean, he should be the best player on the pitch. Is the honest truth. No disrespect to Cambridge United, but the bottom line is that, you expect players like that, they should win comfortably and perform to a very good standard and level. But look, no, as far as the changes, I think ultimately, he wanted to get some players off, get some players on, see the game out, and make sure that, nothing untoward happened towards the end.
Okay. Giannis, your thoughts on how Fulham saw the matchup?
Yeah, they'd already booked the bus tickets for the boys to go back to Brentford. It was done. It was over. It was third goal went in. They didn't look like they were going to really trouble us. Utara had played okay when he came on, but I think the plot was lost by then. I thought we were more likely to get the fourth goal. That's why it's disappointing we didn't get that fourth goal allowed.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, 4-1 would have been a more accurate reflection of the game, but that's
Totally.
fine. We got the 3 points, Russ. We sent him home.
Oh, we sent them home already, Giannis. Okay. Guys, to finish up the show, let's go to man of the match. Giannis, I'll go to you first. Who's your man of the match?
Alex. I thought
Alex
he was superb.
Iwobi.
Yeah, he was superb. He controlled the show yesterday. And for that pass to Harry Wilson for the second goal, he deserves it just for that, if anything. It was there were some very good performances. I think Josh, after that mistake, played very, very well. I thought Anderson played well. I thought Cuenca had a good cameo off the bench.
That's a good point. I thought Cuenca looked
good. Yeah, I do like Cuenca. I think he gives us. Diop still hasn't got any playing time, has he, this year?
No.
Except in the League Cup. Or did he? Yeah, that's another one who's probably going to play on Tuesday night. But Alex, to me, was by a mile the best player in the park. So it goes to Alex.
Okay, I'm sharing some comments. Rodrigo Muniz. Joachim Anderson wanted to share that. Okay. Mr. Gold, who's your man of the match?
Ethan Pinnock.
I like it.
No, seriously. No,
Andrews.
my man. No, I think, I think that it's a toss-up between two. I think Giannis is spot on. I think obviously Alex Iwobi, just because of the impact he had, he was involved in pretty much everything that was positive and good. But I think a special mention has to go to Rodrigo Muniz because, I always say this, Russell, our centre forwards have the hardest role in this team, whether it's Raul, whether it's Muniz, whoever it is playing up there, because they have to get through so much donkey work, so much running into blind alleys, making runs off defenders, and they don't see the ball. Making runs into box. And so, for him to put in that physical display yesterday, and he was very physical. I mean, he roughed up Brentford, their back four. He roughed them up all the time. And he was unfortunate not to get the rewards for that because the goal was taken off him because he deserved that goal. He worked for it. So his performance yesterday was, top notch. But yeah, I think overall, you can't really look past Alex Iwobi. I think he was, terrific yesterday.
And I'm glad that we're talking about Iwobi, Tony, because listen, we were talking about him after the last match and didn't play great, and now he rebounds. And someone actually brought this up to me at the event I was at, and I'll mention that when we get to final thoughts. But Iwobi, again, I think maybe coming back from international duty, maybe this is that thing about international duty when it comes to Fulham. They're not really at it, Tony. And I didn't want to buy into that, but maybe there's something to it.
Look, maybe. I mean, listen, I say we have to put everything in perspective, right? We were playing a very poor Brentford team yesterday. And players like Iwobi, if you don't shut them down and if you give them time to play and you give him space, they will shine and they will look good. And Brentford didn't deal with him. They just didn't deal with him. So, it gave him the opportunity to have the game that he did. Let's see if he can do it against Aston Villa, next Sunday. Let's see if he does it against Bournemouth on the Friday. Let's see if he does it against Arsenal. Those are the games where I judge players because ultimately they're the games that, you're going to be tested in. You're not going to get a free ride like we did against Brentford yesterday. And honestly, I cannot reiterate it enough. Brentford were poor yesterday.
Yep.
Not so much that Fulham were great. Brentford were poor. And we took advantage of that because you can only beat what's put in front of you.
Right. No, very good point. All right, guys, let's go to final thoughts. I do want to just throw this on the docket before we get to that. Chris brings up a good point. Listen, I'm watching this while we're doing the show, and now it's a 1-1 draw. Okay, 1-1 draw for Villa and Sunderland were down a man. So keep that in mind. They are not playing well. You and I talked about this, Tony. Villa, I think, are there for the taking, but this is Fulham going to Villa Park.
Yeah, it's not a great place for us, Russ. We know historically, we've had our moments, but it's not going to be an easy. And as you know, it's Fulham. Villa, however bad they've started, we turn up next week and then they put in a 10-star performance. It's that kind of feeling. So you kind of know going into that game, if Villa get beat today, it's even worse because you're going into that game next week. The expectation, Fulham will go there and win, and then what happens? We get beat 3-0. So I'm keeping my feet very much on the ground.
Okay.
Let's see how we get on Tuesday night against Cambridge. Let's see the changes he makes. And then, will he revert to type next Saturday with the same team? More than likely.
Yes.
We'll just have to wait and see.
The answer is yes. Final thoughts from you before we go, then I'll go to Giannis.
Yeah, look, again, we got another 3 points. We're 7th in the table, after some would say a slow start. And to be honest with you, bar the debacle at Chelsea, we should actually be unbeaten this season, is the honest truth. So, you know what? It's positive, but I still think there's room for growth and improvements. And we just got to keep, working and moving forward.
Okay. Giannis, over to you. Final thoughts.
I think he's gone, Russ.
Oh, he just left. I'm sorry. Oh, let's see if I can get Giannis back on. Sorry about that. There's a Goldman for you. Giannis, final thoughts. Can you hear us, Giannis? Oh, looks like he froze. So
sorry,
that's
my
probably
computer.
why he's off. So then I will actually finish us off with my final thoughts. And basically it goes back to my afternoon. And Tony, it was just wonderful afternoon. And I'll just explain. I watched the match with the Fulham supporters group of Boston. And it was actually at a different place than they normally go. It was in Medford at this place called Long Cross. And I actually brought a couple of friends. One is a co-worker of mine, and we watched it with about 15 people. And I'll just share this story. And Max, if you are listening, he's actually at the Patriots game today. He came all the way from London for a wonderful week with his girlfriend to see the Red Sox. He went to go to a Red Sox game. Then he actually was looking for a place to watch the Fulham match, and he came upon the Fulham supporters group and watched it with us. And what's crazy about this, Tony, and I mentioned this to you, is that Matt came up to me, says, are you Russ? And I said, yes, I am, because I've been following you on Facebook for like 10 years, and I'm a Patriots fan and a Fulham supporter. And he was at this event, and it was just so great to talk to someone that actually, again, it doesn't matter where you live. We're all Fulham supporters. And he came to the event. Him and his girlfriend, I think it's fair to say, had a great time, and I got a chance to meet them and also be with this supporters group. And they were all into it. And what was great was my coworker and my friend Sean, who used to work with us, they had the great time watching me at this event, and they really enjoyed it. And it was just so much fun, Tony.
Yeah, no, amazing. And look, that's what it's about. It doesn't matter, where you are, who you're with, whatever. If you support the football club, everyone's there together and in it together. And that's what's so great about being a Fulham fan,
Yeah.
So no, it's great.
It was. And my friend Sean, after experiencing that, I have a feeling he doesn't support a team. I think it's going to be Fulham now. So that to me was something positive to come out of this. And I'll end here. Chris, I don't want to go here, but since you shared this, the dream of Europe starts now for us. No, I don't want to go there yet. I don't want to go there. I'm going to take Tony's advice. I'm going to stay grounded this year. I'm staying grounded. If it happens, so be it. I'm not predicting anything like that. I learned my lesson the last 2 seasons. I'm not doing that. But thank you, Chris, for sharing that. And also, just want to mention to Giannis, who probably had some technical difficulties. Thank you always, Giannis, for joining the show. And Max will be back with us next week. And, of course, always great to have Tony on the show. But I do want to wrap this up. For Tony Gold, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching. Listen to Cottage Talk. part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.